Thank you for joining us on the news on NTA International. I am Lami Ali. Precious Ozoimena is the sign language interpreter, and these are the leading stories. Supreme Court orders old Naira notes to coexist with new ones till 31st December 2023 as legal tender. President Buhari inaugurates 700 Ashok Leyland troops carrying vehicles for armed forces. Italian Coast Guards rescues 211 refugees and migrants off island of Lampedusa. Beginning with the cashless policy, the Supreme Court has granted some of the reliefs sought by 12 states challenging the federal government's demonetization policy. The 7-man panel of justices, in a unanimous verdict delivered by Justice Emmanuel Agim, ordered that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes should coexist with new ones till 31st December 2023 as legal tender. Judiciary correspondent Austin Anyebe brings us the details.
Kaduna and Zamfara states were the initial plaintiffs in the matter challenging the demonetization policy of the federal government. The initial plaintiffs were later joined by additional 9 states as joiners in the matter, leading to the consolidation of the suit. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, also joined by Edo and Bayelsa states as defendants, made conditional appearance and challenged the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to adjudicate on the matter. The defendants also challenged the legal rights of the states as plaintiffs to institute the matter. In determining the preliminary objections, the Apex Court ruled that it has the jurisdiction to hear the matter being the suit between the federal government, of which the president is head, versus the states as the federating unit. The court frowned at the unilateral directive to CBN without consultation with the Federal Executive Council, the National Council of States, the National Economic Council, and others who are constituents in the federation as required in matters that affect citizens in a democratic government. Justice Emmanuel Agim, who delivered a unanimous judgment, also held that the earlier 3-month period given for the 100, 500 and 1,000 Naira old notes to cease as legal tenders was not in line with the provision in the CBN Act 2007. The 7-man panel of justices frowned on the failure of one of the defendants to obey the interim order made on the 8th February 2023. To this end, the court granted all the relief sought by the plaintiffs and ordered that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira old note should coexist as legal tender till 31st of December 2023 with the new Naira notes.
I expect the CBN to comply. I expect the president to comply. We are a nation under law. The Supreme Court has spoken and we are bound.
As counsel to the plaintiffs and beneficiary of this judgment, we shall take steps within the confines of the law to ensure that whoever that is in contempt of court or does not comply with the Supreme Court decision is brought to book. When Supreme Court speaks, everybody in accordance with the Constitution must obey the judgment of the Supreme Court. So,
3 governors who first approached the court comment.
We are APC members. The president of Nigeria is from the APC, but we disagreed with him on this policy and its implementation.
This particular decision today has proven that Nigerian law is a respecter of no one.
The verdict foreclosed the initial issues surrounding the demonetization policy of the government, as well as pointing out that the CBN, as an agent of the federal government, does not need to be a joinder in the matter. From the Supreme Court, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
And following the ruling of the Supreme Court this Friday that old banknotes remain legal tender until the end of this year, Bossade Abel went round town to get reactions of Nigerians.
2023. Now, this is what Nigerians have to say about this latest development.
I think it's another added turbulence to Nigerian lives. This back and forth, we've been through a lot. But nonetheless, we are almost at the threshold. We are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
They would have done this thing even before the election. But now that the election have gone, it is better for them to introduce that system, that particular system, so that the suffering for our people will reduce.
We have had court decisions before, and they were not obeyed. So what gives us the guarantee now that this is a special one that will be obeyed?
For once, they should have just let this run through. We've gone through the hardest thing, and they should just have allowed given the CBN more encouragement to introduce more of the new Naira notes and the rest of them. Because now, how will they enforce it? If CBN doesn't release the old notes, how would they bring out the old notes?
As at the time of this report, some bank officials say they are having a meeting with the Apex Bank for the next line of action. In Abuja, Bosede Able, NTA News.
And in other news, President Muhammadu Buhari says the government is determined to further stem crime and make the country a hub for the supply of armored vehicles and military equipments for the development of the armed forces of Nigeria. The president stated this while virtually inaugurating 700 Ashok Leyland troops carrying vehicles for the armed forces in Abuja. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa brings us the details.
In view of the complex and dynamic nature of some of the nation's emerging security challenges, the armed forces are conducting different operations with records of success. To upscale troops' capacity and rapid response to threats through deployment of platforms, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the procurement of 700 locally made Ashok Leyland troops carrying vehicles.
With the induction of these vehicles, the armed forces would be better equipped to ensure troops are conveyed safely and timely to objective areas, which would enhance the operational efficiency of the services.
With the advent of various phases of insurgency recorded by our country, it is imperative for us to think inwards and provide local preventive and protective mechanisms to fortify our critical assets, formations, borders, and all various camps across the country, with the sole mandate to ensure that insurgency is contained to its barest minimum.
The president, who virtually inaugurated the vehicle, says the procurement is a testimony of government's commitment to further stem security threats, develop the nation's military-industrial complex, and promote socio-economic development.
I have no doubt that the employment of these vehicles, which I have just commissioned, would increase the lifting capacity of the armed forces of Nigeria, thereby adding to the combat efficiency levels. This demonstrates the commitment and the importance the federal government attaches to the fight against insurgency, criminalities, and the welfare of personnel. I therefore charge you to consolidate on the gains we have achieved towards sustaining the peace and stability of the country.
The procurement of the vehicles is in line with the Executive Order 5 signed by President Muhammadu Buhari to enhance the nation's local content policy, reduce capital flight, and generate employment. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
The federal government has been enjoined to develop a legal framework to enhance the ongoing de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration program for repentant insurgents in the Northeast. This was the focus of the program organized by the Office of the National Security Advisor and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in collaboration with the Nigerian Army Resource Center, in furtherance to efforts by stakeholders to address the menace of terrorism while adopting a holistic approach.
The Office of the National Security Advisor will continue to effectively engage with all stakeholders to ensure effective implementation of all programs in conformity with our policy documents.
Collaboration among agencies and the need to strike a balance on the requirements of the surrendered insurgents and victims, as well as defined legal framework for the program, needs to be encouraged.
While we are looking at how to treat the insurgents who have surrendered, how do we treat the victims who have suffered, who have lost loved ones due to the actions of these people we want to take back to the communities? And how do the government look after the communities as a whole? That's the reason why we're looking at the three segments at the same time. You must provide a legal framework. So the legal framework will look at possibly what do you do with people who have committed an offense and then you want to rehabilitate them.
The non-kinetic approach to counter-insurgency seeks to promote collaborative learning and establishing a shared purpose for advancing disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, DDR policy. It's and operational level understanding of the concepts, approaches, and new practices involved in the effective planning, implementation, and coordination of DDR. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, during its regular weekly meeting on Thursday, 2nd March 2023, deliberated on several issues, including the presidential and National Assembly elections, the governorship and state assembly elections, and the pending elections in Enugu East Senatorial District, as well as the Esan Central, Esan West, and Igwebem federal constituencies in Edo State. In a statement signed by the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, the Commission assures Nigerians that the governorship and State House of Assembly elections scheduled for Saturday, 11th March 2023, will hold as scheduled, and that all the processes and procedures leading to the election are being finalized. The Commission will conduct the rescheduled elections in Enugu and Edo States on Saturday, 11th March 2023, along with the governorship and state assembly elections. The Commission is also compiling the list where senatorial districts and federal constituencies declarations and returns were not made, while a date for supplementary elections will be fixed after the governorship and state assembly elections. Now, the Presidential Campaign Council of the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu has cautioned the opposition political parties challenging the results of the February 25th, 2023 presidential election to pursue their grievances with decorum. At a media briefing in Abuja, the media team of the President-elect disclosed that a legal team has been constituted to meet the aggrieved parties in court. Salihu Gwanara reports.
The announcement and presentation of certificate of return to Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president-elect by the Independent National Electoral Commission has generated reactions from the camp of the first and second runner-up, who resolved to take legal action. The winning team appealed to the aggrieved parties to, in the spirit of sportsmanship, demonstrate the political will and encourage their members and supporters to follow the path of the rule of law.
The claim that INEC did not use beavers is patently false. Those who voted across Nigeria, including Atiku and Obi, were accredited by beavers. The process of transmitting results from polling units, whether real-time, 2 days later, or at any time, for that matter, cannot in any way change the results that have been announced right after the counting in the presence of the party's agents and to the hearing of the voters at each polling unit.
That we are also going to be filing a cross petition to cancel the votes of Labour Party in virtually almost all the states in the Southeast.
This mandate was given by 8 million Nigerian citizens, born free, freely gave their, almost 9, freely gave their mandate. Are we to be pushed around? Are we to be told that we're insignificant? Are we not Nigerians as well? We will go to court. We will defeat them in court. We will defend our mandate.
The president-elect, the team said, has reactivated post-election reconciliation team in line with his agenda of presiding over a united country. In Abuja, Saliu Gwanara, NTA News.
Now, the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu was among other Muslim faithful who participated in Jumat prayers at the National Mosque, Abuja. Musbah Donghab reports.
A grateful heart is here before the greatest. It's been a tedious past few months of campaigns, crisscrossing the country and touring the states of the Federation and the FCT. That rewarded with victory at the polls and validated with a certificate in the kitty, the president-elect has decided to return the glory to God, bowing to his supremacy. More daunting is the task ahead to pilot the affairs of the state when sworn in as from May 29. And for this, a special prayer is required as offered by the Chief Imam, Professor Ahmed Ibrahim Makari. The president-elect was accompanied by some current and former governors, the pioneer EFCC boss Nuhu Ribadu, among other dignitaries. In Abuja, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
Amidst the controversy generated in the aftermath of the February 25, 2023 presidential election, the coalition of northern groups has commended Nigerians on their conduct during and after the polls. Dennis Adegunloye reports that the group also congratulates President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his magnanimity in victory.
It is the nature of democracy. There will be winners, there will be losers, and everyone cannot agree on the results of any given election. And this is what has played out in the recent presidential election held across the country. On one side of the divide are some who claim the process was not fair and transparent, while on the other side, the consensus is that the polls were conducted in a credible and transparent manner. For the coalition of northern groups, there will always be those aggrieved in an election. After all, nobody likes to lose. And on its assessment of the presidential election, it was fair and transparent, and pockets of challenges here and there must be expected. The coalition, however, commends the sportsmanship of particularly the three major contending candidates for their leadership in calming frayed nerves and opting for judicial resolutions rather than incitement. The electorate and youths especially were also commended for their vibrant participation in the polls and their significant roles as INEC officials.
We congratulate Nigeria for passing through this patently transparent election, the result of which, in the true spirit of democracy, is accepted by some and disputed by others.
Special mention was reserved for President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with faith in his vision to tackle youth unemployment and other challenges.
We appreciate the incoming president's humility and maturity displayed in his acceptance speech. We urge him to keep to his promise of being just to all sections of the country.
There was a final call to the judiciary to be fair in dealing with electoral disputes that will inevitably come before it for adjudication. In Abuja, Dennis Adegunloye, NTA News.
Now, an early hour pipeline fire explosion from activities of illegal oil bunkers in Rumekpe, Emoha local government area of River State have claimed many lives with over 10 vehicles destroyed. Kingsley Amajiri was there earlier in the day and brings us this update.
Rumekpe is in the Emoha local government area. Will reliably gather that this fire you're seeing here is an explosion from a pipeline as early as about around 4:30 to 5 a.m. this early morning when the incident occurred. Reliably gather that some persons were trying product from that gas pipeline, and the explosion occurred. About 10 vehicles or thereabouts were repeatedly burnt in that incident. You could see some vehicles and keke, as well as over 20 persons, although not confirmed. I have with me this local government chairman who has come on assessment tour of what has just happened.
It's very sad. I feel very, very sad about what is going on here. The mere fact that we lost even just one life is bad enough. How much more, You look at the number of cars that are affected there, not less than 5 cars. So let's assume that we have 4 occupants in each of those cars. How many would that be? And I hear there were some who were doing the scope. The governor of Rivers State gave the marching order, and all the 23 council chairmen went to work. You remember, we were almost nearly walking from the bush. We did all that. Then, all of a sudden, the federal government, of course, whose primary function it is to maintain all this, came in, the Minister of State for Petroleum.
As early as 4 a.m., we are here when it happened. As you can see, we've been able to rescue some of them. They are in the hospital. And
how many do you rescue?
We've been able to rescue 3 of them. There now you have only 1 corpse that you can see lying down there that was born beyond recognition.
How many persons were affected?
So far, when we came here, when they saw...
Kingsley Amajiri there on location at the scene of the fire explosion on a pipeline. You're watching the news reaching you on NTA International. We take a short break now. More reports in a moment. Do stay tuned.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
In view of the overwhelming consequences of the 2022 flood, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has convened an experts meeting to analyze 2023 flood outlook and rainfall predictions towards early preparation and action. Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mustafa Habib Ahmed said the strategic meeting is key to reducing the level of casualties. Ilyasu Aliyakubu reports.
The 2023 climate predictions by NIMET, with early onset of rainfall from early March and flood outlook predictions by NISA, has been widely speculated as such that may overwhelmingly exceed that of 2022 devastation. This technical meeting convened by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, with intervening agencies is to harmonize all efforts aimed at early preparation and actions. The DG NEMA is optimistic that with the collaboration of all the stakeholders in this early intervening strategy, a lot will be achieved. He said nothing will be left to chance to ensure that less casualties and destruction of property is experienced.
Early warning, early action. We'll make sure we'll bombard everybody, every citizen, every state government, every local government. We'll give them this information. We'll throw it down, we'll send it down to them. We'll share it, we'll not keep quiet. We'll make sure everybody's aware that yes, it's serious. And we're expecting flood this year. It's not a story.
If we predict and actions are taken, it will go a long way to ensure that there will be a reduction in loss of life and property.
The 2023 climate predictions shows that 32 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, are likely to fall within the highly probable flood risk areas. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Zubairu Dada has summoned the Burkina Faso envoy to Nigeria, Pascal Guba, over the gruesome murder of 16 Nigerians who were on a pilgrimage to Kaolack, Senegal, over a month ago. A statement by Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs acknowledges a report by Jam'iyyatu Ansaruddin at-Tijaniya of Nigeria, which revealed that 16 of its members were shot dead allegedly by Burkinabe soldiers on patrol. The summons is to therefore explain in detail what happened, calling for urgent response from the government of Burkina Faso. Let's now join our Deepola Brooklyn Sunday for some stories trending outside Nigeria.
Hundreds of students across Australia have skipped school to demand action on climate change.
Protesters in Sydney marched through the city streets in rain, demanding that no more coal, oil and gas projects be approved.
We have seen devastating bushfires, devastating droughts, devastating floods across the country.
It is urgent that we are here today because I'm putting my education at risk.
Australia was for years an international laggard on efforts to prevent climate change, but the recently elected Labour government has increased the targets to reduce emissions to 43% by 2030. French President Emmanuel Macron has described the oil-rich Angola as the strategic partner in the region. In Angolan capital Luanda, Macron held talks with his counterpart, João Lourenço. He told a joint conference that the heart of his visit is the strengthening of agricultural partnership with Angola. The two governments penned an agreement to boost Angola's agricultural sector, particularly climate resilience and water security, in addition to helping revamp coffee, soya, cotton, and dairy production, among other sectors. The goal, they said, is to develop a Made in Africa strategy. And in the night between Thursday and Friday, 2 Coast Guard vessels rescued a fishing boat in distress with several refugees and migrants on board in the Italian search and rescue zone, some 15 miles south of the small island of Lampedusa. The 2 vessels reached the fishing boats and started operations to rescue its passengers, which were particularly complex amid rough seas, with a high number of people on board and the precarious condition of the boats taking in water. All 211 passengers were rescued. The 2 Coast Guard vessels subsequently took the refugees and migrants to Lampedusa, including an alleged smuggler who was handed over to police. Adebola, Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
And this is where we end the news. Don't forget that the invitation to you from the NTA to join its campaign against rape and rapists is still on. I'm Lami Ali. Precious Ozoimena has been the sign language interpreter. Do have a beautiful weekend.